Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Tech Talks. This is the Return to School 2020-21 Town Hall event. Want to welcome you all and thank you all for spending your evening for the next hour listening to me talk about the upcoming school year. First and foremost, I hope all of our students, parents, and caregivers are safe, well, happy, and I hope today was a successful first day for our students. To our ninth graders, welcome to Staten Island Technical High School. I hope everyone was able to log on today. Of course, when we're relying on technology, there are things that can go wrong. There's some technical difficulties. I'm sure along the way there were today. We've been addressing them as they've come up to us. And basically, one of the things I found out immediately after school, if for some reason you got emails about your child being absent, there was some conflict on Pupil Path today regarding absenteeism when students were indeed marked present. So not surprised with anything that involves technology that we're going to have some bumpy starts. But I do want to start off by once again thanking you for all being here tonight. And one of the things over the past couple of months, and this school year has been many months in the making. And one of the things that we tried to do and tried not to do was over communicate by giving out too much information and then having to come back a day or so or a week later and then retract it. I feel we've done a really great job in putting the information out there and never have changed that we said or something that we promised that we were going to do. So up until now, everything that we've been putting forth, much of it has not changed. We've been able to maintain everything we planned on doing. And tonight, what I'd like to do is, even though I've shared a lot of this information on the school website, I do want to spend some time looking at that with you tonight and reviewing some of that information and showing you what some of this looks like in Pupil Path to make sure that when you're accessing Pupil Path, you are able to see your child's program and understand how that translates into what we've come up with for our school, the block schedule that we're using. So I want to make sure that that translates well and everyone understands what we're doing. And then, of course, at one point, once we've gotten through all of that, I would like to get to some of the questions. So if you have some questions and put them into the comment section, at one point I will be getting to those. But also keep in mind, I'm going to constantly keep on referring to the FAQ section on our school website. I've been asking for weeks now for you to send your questions to me. I will answer them, but I will also post them onto our school website so other students, parents, and caregivers and members of the school community can see them. And there's been a lot of the same types of questions repeatedly asked over and over again. So I'd be surprised if most of your answers aren't there. If they're not, we will get them up soon. All right. So today was the first of 3 days of remote learning. So if I'm sure most of you are aware at this point, with the delay of the start of the school year, the thought process was that the first 3 days of the school year were going to be remote. And because of the nature of how we're running the school year this year in creating a block schedule, it worked out really nicely for us because we took our 9-period day and broke it up over 3 days, day A being periods 1, 2, 3, day B being periods 4, 5, 6, and day C being 7, 8, and 9. We were very lucky in that we were able to break up Wednesday, Thursday, Friday into 3 periods each day, and to give our students an opportunity to meet their teachers a little at a time each day. So it's not meant to be overwhelming. And after being in our school for 24 years and another 4 years behind the desk, one of the things that we've always worked really, really hard at is making sure that the work and the day-to-day life of a student is doable. So this block schedule that we're using, make sure that that's true. Make sure that we uphold that promise to never overwhelm our students too much. Sometimes it's unavoidable, but if we can control the flow of information and the flow of work and the demand of what we're trying to do, I mean, this was the way that we felt was the most the viable way of doing it, an efficient way of doing it, while maintaining a lot of different things. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to shut off some of this branding around me, and I'm going to bring the school website up. And I'm bringing the school website up because once again, one of my goals tonight, I want to model for you and show you where this information is and where you can get access to it at any given time. So upon going to our school website, you're going to see this big giant button on the website that says Return to School 2020. You can't miss it. And if you click on it, oh, of course, there we go. It's back. Okay, so let's do that. Take two. Let's try that again. All right. You come to the school website, click on Return to School 2020, and it's going to bring you to this page. Internet is messing with me tonight. And it brings you to this page, and I want to bring your attention to the sidebar here because the three links here are important. The Return to School 2020 general info link, that's where all the emails I've been sending, that's where all the chancellor's messages are located. So now I'm going to click on that for a moment, and you'll see there's a section here that if you click on it, the arrow bumps down and all the information reveals itself. These are all the all the communications that the Chancellor, Richard Carranza, has been sending is located here. And then all of my emails and messages that I've been sending are right below here. So for example, the email that I sent yesterday answering questions like, how will I know my class schedule? How can I find my Google Classroom codes? What is the remote learning day schedule for the next 3 days? When is the first day of in-person remote blended learning? All those answers I put here in addition to sending to you via email. Okay, so and then here once again is the little blurb advertisement about tonight's event. And then of course, if you have any questions, how you can reach our parent coordinator. So all of those communications are right here, and I plan on put them here for the time being. But the section I really wanted to focus on is the Return to School 2020 student schedule section. Okay. Because that's really where a lot of this information that's most important is that I want to share with you tonight. So last Sunday, I sent some final updates to you. I posted a video, which you can watch at any time at your leisure, which explains the whole entire process of what our program looks like, how it works, how it functions. So you can look at that at any time. And just a little bit of a reminder in terms of the fact that this year, the way things are working is if you're a student, you're in one of three groups. So you're in group 3 if you're fully remote and you've opted not to come into school. Okay, you're in group 3 if you're fully remote and opted not to come to school. Presently speaking, we are at the exact 50% mark. So 50% of our students have opted to stay home, and the remaining 50% is coming to school. And basically what we were able to do is we broke up the groups. Last names A to L is group 1. Last names M to Z is group 2. And essentially, because of the way we set up our program, when students come into the building, students are coming for 3 days in a row. So on Monday of next week, we're going to be starting off with group 1, 3 days in a row, where they come in for live instruction in person. While group 2 is at home, and then the following 3 days, the next 3 days, group 2 is in while group 1 stays home. So it's one thing for me to say that out loud, but let's see it. What does that look like? So if you scroll down a little bit further, I did include a calendar that illustrates that. And I'm going to be continually creating calendars for you that look like this, that are very colorful, graphical, and basically it makes it a little bit easier for you to keep track of when you're in school and when you're at home. So if we take a look at this, here we are right now Wednesday, September 16th, Thursday the 17th, and Friday the 18th. All three groups, group 1, 2, and 3, are remote. We're doing all of our instruction remotely for the next 3 days. So that's why it says remote learning for groups 1, 2, and 3. And how do you know which classes are meeting each day? Now, once again, just to keep in mind, we have a 9-period day, and there's 3 periods per day. So day A is periods 1, 2, 3. Day B is periods 4, 5, 6. Day C is periods 7, 8, 9. So when you're looking on Pupil Path at your program and you're looking at the periods of the program, that's how you know which classes you have each day based upon what day it is, which periods are true to that day. So let's skip ahead to Monday, September 21st. And as I said, being that we are following the rotation of 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, and then repeat, next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, group 1 students will be in the school, last names A through L. And then starting on Thursday next week, group 2 students will be in school. So once again, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, group 1 students are in school, group 2 students are at home, and group 3 students are at home. So for those days, those students are considered remote students. If you're not in school on a certain day, you're considered a remote student. So on Thursday, group 2 comes in again for Thursday, Friday. So now here's the big question. What happens on a holiday? So Monday, September 28th is Yom Kippur. The school is closed. Do you miss a day or do we just skip over it? So we skip over it and we just continue on the next school day. So group 2 has 3 consecutive days in school in between the holiday. So I just wanted to make sure that we illustrated that a student never loses a day. We just skip over to the next active school day. And then after next Tuesday, we bring group 1 in for 3 days. Then we bring in group 2 for 3 days on October. Could you believe it's already going to be October? And then we bring in group 1 again. And then there's another holiday, Columbus Day. We skip over that day and we bring group 1 in. So incidentally, if you're looking in Pupil Path, and I want to show this to you for a moment. If you're looking in Pupil Path and you go to, this is what it looks like to you. You click on class schedule, click on view schedule as a grid. If you click on that, you'll get a full view of what the schedule looks like. And I'm going to skip ahead to the week of September 21st. So this is so this particular student is a fully remote student. So this is a student that is never in the building. So that's why it always says remote, remote, remote. But as you can see, Monday, periods 1, 2, so these are the periods for day A. Here's day B. And here's day C. Now, if this was an in-person student who rotates, you wouldn't see this word remote. You'd only see the word remote when the student is at home, and you wouldn't see it unless the student is in the building. Okay, so I just wanted to show you where you can find that information. So clicking on class schedule and then clicking on view schedule as a grid will tell you basically when you're going to be in school and when you're not going to be in school. I happen to pick a student here who is fully remote for this particular example. Okay, so let me go back to the website. Okay, so as I said before, that I am going to share each time we have a next cycle of information and dates, something similar to this chart, this calendar, in order to keep on conveying to you when your child's going to be in school, students, when you're going to be in school, versus when you're going to be at home. Okay. All right. I'm going to scroll back down a little bit. And what I wanted to get to, I wanted to talk a little bit about what we've come up this year and why we did things the way we did it. So what was really important to us, and I know some of you have children in other schools. Some of you are watching the news, reading the newspapers, and hearing all sorts of different things. There are schools that have severe teaching shortages. There are schools that seemingly maybe aren't ready to open. There's all sorts of different scenarios out there. So we are ready to open. Our incredible faculty and staff have worked with us in creating a program that allows for many things to be true. So some of the things that are true across the city is a lot of the schools, many of the schools had to cut programs that they simply couldn't sustain because of the way they had to arrange teachers and classes. So there are many schools out there that had engineering programs, science programs, art programs basically slashed. So in other words, the classes and the programs that attracted students to those schools were gone because of the way in which we have to function right now. As I said before, we have an incredible programming team. Myself and the program team and a group of teachers came together throughout the summer, including the school leadership team membership, which is comprised of students, teachers, parents, faculty, and staff. I want to thank all of those people who kept on coming together and kept on working on this to make sure not only did we have a viable and efficient program, but we didn't compromise and lose anything along the way. So nearly all of the staple and highly sought after Staten Island Tech courses remain intact and available for students to take during the 2021 school year. And just in pure transparency, we lost, out of all the programs and courses that we offer, we only lost 4 classes. We lost 2 electronics classes, 1 modern physics class, and the 4th course is escaping my mind right now. But none of these courses were advanced placement courses or college credit college credit bearing courses. And not that that means anything. It's what we tried to do is ensure that all of our students were going to be taking classes that we know is important to them when creating their story on the high school transcript that colleges are going to be looking at, whether it be this year or in the years to come. So we wanted to be able to maintain, whether it be remotely, fully remote, or in person, or blended, the staple courses and the reasons why you sent your child to the school. So I would say that's pretty incredible if it only came down to losing 4 courses that we weren't able to offer students. And yes, it's true. In some cases, we weren't able to offer students exactly the science course that we were able to give them, but we tried to give them a comparable. So maybe you didn't get AP Physics, but instead you got AP Bio. Maybe you didn't get that science course you want, but we were able to give you computer science. We really tried to make choices and decisions that, I don't think we're going to make everyone happy. And I think it's nearly impossible to do that this year. And I'll quote the chancellor, and I'll phrase it in his terminology that this is going to be unlike any school year that we've ever had, and this is not your regular mill run of the school year. It's going to be very different in every aspect. It can't, nothing can replace in-person instruction for a full day. Nothing is going to be better than that. But we are going to give our students everything we got to maintain what we've created together. So nearly all of our staple programs are intact. Staten Island Technical High School teachers will be teaching the in-person and fully remote courses. So what's really amazing about what we were able to do is, let's say you're in Class X. You're taking Class X, and Class X has 34 students. And let's say out of those 34 students, 14 of them are fully remote and 20 of them are in person. So the way that we program classes, that within one class, part of those kids are in person and part of those kids are fully remote. And what that means is that teacher who has those students, if that child chooses not to come to school anymore and go fully remote, they keep their teacher. The only thing that will change is when they meet with their teacher. And as you're going to see, students who are coming to school for in-person learning, meet their teachers in person in the morning. In the afternoon is when students meet with their remote teachers. So feasibly, justifiably and feasibly speaking, if you were coming to school in the morning and you met with student teacher X on this day, and now you change your mind and you're no longer coming to school, you're going to be going to school remotely, you're simply just going to follow the same schedule, have the same teacher, and now instead of seeing them in the morning, you're going to see them in the afternoon. So, and that was by design, because what we didn't want to happen was, as things were to change and things were to move along, you losing your program, or you having to change a teacher constantly because of, I'm not going to school anymore, I'm going fully remote. So this was by design to make sure that we maintain the continuity of instruction. Okay. So as I said before, the way that we've taken our 9-period day, we took our 9 periods. Now, one of those 9 periods is usually lunch. So really it's an 8-period day, but we kept the 9-period day to create that extra hole in the schedule. So we'd have more flexibility in where we could put students' classes. All right. So having that extra hole in the schedule, it created a little bit shorter of a day for students on certain days, but it gave us more flexibility into where we could plug classes in, and I'll show you that in a minute. And also what this does, folks, I know some of you who are newer to our school, why are they just giving 3 classes in a day? Well, let's remember the reason why we're doing this in the first place. We are still in the midst of a pandemic. There are health and safety concerns. So it makes a lot of sense to minimize the exposure of students to one another and students to staff and vice versa. So by having 2 to 3 periods per day that a student is attending in person, we are minimizing the amount of exposure and traveling time for students. I have gotten a lot of questions from parents. Is it really worth it for my child to travel from Brooklyn or wherever in Staten Island for only, a partial day of school live and in person? And my answer to that question is yes, I think it's worth it. I think at one point we have to cross this threshold of approaching a greater sense of normalcy and restoring the socialization of children with our teachers, and bringing, eventually this has to go back to a different version of the way it was, right? So I think it is worth it, whether it be for 4 hours within the day to make the trek to Staten Island Tech, whether you live in Brooklyn or Staten Island or Manhattan, to take that first step back towards a little bit of normalcy. We've gone through great lengths, like many of the other schools have, to ensure safety and to minimize all the things that could increase the likeliness of being exposed and coming down with COVID. Okay. So just moving down this list here, and then we'll get into the actual nitty gritty of it. So like I said, in-person students will be attending for 3 consecutive days. That's awesome. Some schools are only able to offer their students 1 day a week, 2 days a week. We are always going to be able to offer you 3 days in a row, followed by another 3 days in a row. Small disclaimer, when and if more students come back into the building, that might change a little bit. We might have to create another group of students and do a different variation of the rotation. But right now, based upon the occupancy in the classrooms and the building, we can bring students in 3 days in a row on and off, and that will work great. And the last little point here, so in-person and remote learners both have exclusive schedules aligned during the day to ensure that we're able to focus our attention maximally for our distance learning groups. So by splitting the schedule the way I'm about to show you, in-person learners have the teacher's attention in the beginning of the day, and our remote learners have our teacher's attention in the second half of the day. We thought it was really important to distinguish that. And I know you're hearing stuff in the news about new plans that were revealed to principals. And I want you to understand that some of the changes that you're reading about in the news was intended to create flexibility for principals who have a 100 teacher deficit in their building. There are schools that are missing 50 teachers in order to pull off their plans. So yeah, what you have to understand is that this new flexibility guidance that just came out is intended. Yes, in some cases, some schools are going to be sacrificing the live video conferencing instruction that happens for their remote learners in place of asynchronous instruction. We're not doing that. We're moving forward with our plan to have two distinct programs for our students and to allow, as things happen in life, if things happen in your life where you have to go from fully in person to fully remote, your program's not going to change. Yeah. Will it be a little bit different not being in person? Yes. But we've figured out a way to even keep all of our technology classes intact, whether you're in school or at home, which is remarkable. So let's dive into this and let's take a look. So here it is. This is what the schedule looks like. Okay. And you've seen it before. I'll show it to you again and explain it in depth. So when your child arrives, let's talk from the perspective of students who are going to come into school in person. So what could you expect? When you come to school on Monday in person for your first day of in-person instruction. So the one thing that's true no matter what school you attend is you will not be allowed into the building until approximately 15 minutes before the first class begins. So some of our students have class at 8 a.m. as like a science lab. So we're going to let those students in first. I know what you're thinking. What if it's raining outside? Okay, so there's two answers to that question. If it's inclement weather, you're going to have to bring an umbrella and take into account that you might have to wait outside if it's raining. Good news is our building is under construction for certain repairs and work that is being done. Because of that work that's being done, we have a facade around the whole back portion of the building. We have scaffolding that is up that creates a barrier and it basically is creating an area where students can stand and wait even when it's raining outside. And what we have done, students, when they arrive, will see little dots on the ground 6 feet apart, instructing them where to stand while they're waiting to come into school. We have a gigantic, on the athletic field, we have bleachers that we have also put dots on 6 feet apart. So when students arrive early, the weather has been pretty nice out. I know it's starting to get a little bit colder. The students will be able to wait on the bleachers until we let them into the building. From what I understand, there will be some sort of 4-question process. You're going to have to answer 4 questions at home before the child comes in. They haven't given us the details yet on that, so I can't really explain. I know what it looks like for us. It's a small little app. You answer 4 questions, and I show the security guard when I walk in the morning. Basically, I could show you. I think I have a picture of that, and do I have? Yeah, I may have gotten rid of it. Yeah, no, I don't have it on my phone anymore. Oh, no, I do. So it basically looks like this. So you answer the 4 questions, you get a screen that you show the security agent or the Staten Island Tech faculty member, attesting that you've done the screening test at home and you don't have a fever, you haven't been near someone who has COVID, and you haven't been in a place that in the past couple of days that was on the list of places you can't visit. It's going to be clear. We'll send it out to you, not to worry, but there'll be some sort of attestation that you're going to have to take before your child comes to school. Once your child comes to school, there'll be random temperature scanning, and your child will have the option to grab a bag of breakfast, and go right to class. And they'll be permitted, they'll have a period of time at the very beginning of the class to eat their breakfast if they choose to, and class is just basically going to begin. So that's what's going to happen and what you should expect when your child gets to school. And this is what we have set up. So coming back to the screen here, let's look at a sample program. Let's take a look at the sample program. This is day A, and this student has 3 classes. And you'll notice that for 2 of the 3 classes, the student is in the same classroom. So English and Language Arts, Gods and Monsters in room 215, and then AP Macroeconomics, room 215, followed by Physical Education in the gymnasium. So this particular student will be in the same classroom for 2 periods. Their teacher is going to go to them, and then they're going to travel in the hallways and go to the 3rd floor gymnasium. So now here is what's true. So about all of our 9th grade classes have been podded. So that means our 9th graders are going to be in the same class for 3 periods in a row. So they won't be traveling. The teachers will be traveling to the 9th graders. For our 10th graders, about half of the 10th graders are podded. And we were able to do that only because the 10th graders and the 9th graders have a similar program. That was the only way we could pod students. You had to be a student who's taken the same classes as another student. So that's true for all 9th graders. That's true for half of the 10th graders. And then the other half of the 10th graders and all the 11th and the 12th graders, they are going to be allowed to travel in the building to different classes. But what will always be true, so let's take a look at here. So the students in this AP Macro are going to be going to the 3rd floor gym. What's true of the 3rd floor gym is no other students would have been in that room for that day. So when a student is traveling to another classroom, it has been cleaned the previous day, and no other students have been in that room whatsoever for that day. So and because of having nearly half of the students in the building each day not traveling, when students are traveling, there's going to be very few students in the classroom, in the hallways, and in the stairwell. So it's going to be very safe. It's going to be very easy to be socially distant when traveling in our building. Because 50% of our students are fully remote, and more each day are going fully remote, we will never have in the building any more, less than 400 students per day. And right now it's becoming closer to less than 350 students per day are ever in the building. So when you take that into account and realize that any of those 9th graders aren't traveling once they get to a classroom, and half of those 10th graders aren't traveling once they get to that classroom, that creates a very safe situation, okay? A very safe situation. All of our bathrooms that the students are going to be using are monitored. So a student, no more than the allowed number of students will be in the bathroom at any given time. And then after a certain amount of times, the bathrooms will be cleaned and washed down. So it's really going to be a very controlled, very safe environment, for students, faculty, and staff. So taking into account, back to this example, day A, these 3 classes, this is an in-person student. So let's go to the schedule. So this student will come in around 8 o'clock. By 8:20, that student will begin their class. So you will notice that each of these classes, period 1, period 2, and period 3, and just to kind of give you some sense of how did I organize this? So 1IP stands for in-person. In-person, period 1, in-person, period 2, in-person, period 3. And each class is an hour long with a 6-minute student and teacher passing time. So the lesson in person with the teacher is going to be for an hour, and there's 6 minutes for the teachers to move to their next class or the students to move to the next class. And please keep in mind, in order to keep the teachers in a safe situation, each teacher was given their own laptop. So when they're traveling to another classroom, they have to connect their laptop to the giant screen. They're using gloves. They're wiping things down. So it's so as much as we're ensuring our student safety, we're ensuring our faculty and staff safety. So we're giving them 6 minutes to change classes to make sure that everyone can get safely where they need to go. Somebody's watching the kids in the classroom while our teachers are traveling back and to and from, and there's actual time there for a teacher to set up and then begin the next lesson. So you'll notice that happens. That would happen for this student for all 3 periods. Now, what if it was day B And this student came for period 4, performing arts, and then had calculus, and then there's no class. Now, if you count, this student has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 periods, which is typical of a Staten Island Tech student. 7 instructional periods, an 8th period of lunch, and then maybe a science lab is in there. So you'll notice, because lunch is grab and go at the end of the day, we're not scheduling the lunch period in there. But what this allows to happen is on a day B, if the student has a period 4 and a period 5, that student will leave at 10:32, grab a lunch, and go home. So what that does is a couple of things. That's gonna create less of an issue for students getting a bus when hundreds of other kids are trying to get that bus. So this naturally creates a staggered approach of how and when students are leaving the building and going home. Okay. So once again, this is all by design, and this all allows us to stagger entry and exit into and out of the building. Okay. And you notice for this sample schedule, the same thing is true on day C. So this student, at the conclusion of period 8, right, which is at 10:32, they'd be leaving the building. If they want to grab a lunch and go, they could grab a lunch and go. Otherwise, they're just going. They're going home. So the in-person instruction for an in-person learner is happening in the beginning of the day. So now the question is, what happens after they go home? So I have a graphic for that. Let's take a look at this. So what would the school day look like for an in-person learner who is in school on any given day? So this in-person learner just attended the morning session, which is for in-person learners, attended assigned in-person day A classes, and then taking a grab-and-go lunch at the day's conclusion, and then going home. Well, let's just assume that student goes home. So what's the expectation for the rest of the day? Okay, student goes home, and let's say they get home somewhere between, I don't know, 11:30 and 1 o'clock, whatever that is. When that student gets home, so what will always be true, in addition to the live instructional component, in addition to the live instructional component, there is asynchronous independent learning work to do. So we're using Google Classroom to post work and notes and content for students. So when do students do this asynchronous work? Well, it'll be when they're not getting live instruction from the teacher. So the idea is an in-person learner that is in school in the morning will go home, and from 11:38 to whatever time at night it takes. Every student is different. Every student will choose to use their time differently. But from the time that they get home, they have that time, and they should utilize that time to complete the work for whatever classes they had earlier in the morning. So if we take a look at this sample schedule here, a student came to class for Gods and Monsters, AP Macro, and Phys Ed in the morning. When they get home that night, they should be doing the independent work for that class. That is our recommendation. Okay, when will assignments be due for assignments that were given on day A? Assignments will be due by 10 p.m. the night before the next day A. So 3 days from now is the next time that this student is going to see that teacher. Okay, so in other words, the next time that this student will have Gods and Monsters, if this is Monday day A, it'll be on Thursday, the next time day A is. When is the assignment due? 10 p.m. the night before. Okay, so there's about three days, a little less than 3 days when that assignment will be due. And that's not to say that the teacher is not going to give, some questions in class during the day that are due sometime in the same day. That's acceptable. If there's an exit ticket, there's 1 or 2 questions that the teacher asks, that need to be answered that day. Yes, that's permissible. But like the homework assignments are built into the content that's going to be on Google Classroom. All right. So I'm not saying that a student from 11:38 to 2:20 has to complete their work. They have till whatever time at night to do that. But I just recommend that they do the work, the asynchronous, independent work. And by the way, if you don't know what I mean by asynchronous, if you scroll down the page, the very last part is instruction. What is asynchronous and synchronous learning? You click on it, you can see all the clinical language and the terms behind this. But let's finish up talking about an in-person learner. Your in-person time is in the morning, okay? And I don't want to not include the remote part. So when you see the in-person learner is dismissed, that is the end of the in-person's day. And now the second half of the day begins. The remote learning portion of the day begins. Okay, the remote learning portion of the day is only intended for students who are not in school that day. So if you were in person that day, this has nothing to do with you. Remote learning part of the day is for when you're home and not in school, okay? That's why I created this graphic right here to make sure it's very clear for an in-person learner, this is what your day looks like. So now let's talk about a student who is not in school on any given day. So that's going to be a fully remote student or a student who is in group 2. So next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is for group 1. So the first 3 days of next week, group 2 students are going to be home. So when do remote students get their live synchronous learning? In the afternoon. So let's take a look at it. So remote learning begins at 11:38. And once again, as you saw in the morning, 1 IP, 2 IP, 3 IP, 1 in-person, 2nd in-person period, 3rd in-person period. So 1 RM just means remote period 1, remote period 2, remote period 3. Each of these periods are 54 minutes long, okay? So that means that the students will be tuning in with their teachers via Google Meet or Zoom for a period of time in those 54 minutes, conducting their synchronous instruction for their live instruction that day. Why 54 minutes? Well, we had to try and balance this and take into account, you have to realize, so why couldn't it be an hour for the in-person learners and an hour for the remote learners? At the end of the day, I still have to do drills. I have to do fire drills. I have to do hard lockdowns. I have to do faculty conferences. When you take all those things into account and announcements, we buffered the time in the in-person part of the day, taking into account that there's going to be interruptions, okay? So take into account those interruptions. It's almost about the same amount of instructional time. And you really have to keep in mind, I'm going to keep on saying, this is blended learning. So that means that part of the onus on learning is going to be independent from the student's part via the content that we post on Google Classroom. And then the other component is the synchronous learning that teachers are going to be working with students live, either in person or via video conference. There's no other way of saying it. This is not going to be like your typical year. Blended learning it's a give and a take, and it's a combined effort amongst the students, the faculty, and the staff in delivering content and delivering rigorous and experiences that we feel are going to be very, very much worth it. So the students who are at home will always tune into the lessons in the afternoon. So that begs the question, what are they doing in the morning? So let's take a look at that. So, and I have a graphic for that. So what would the school day look like for a remote learner who is fully remote or blended remote? So all that fully remote means I'm never coming in the building. I have opted out of going to the building. Blended remote means some days I'm in the building for 3 days at a time, and some days I am not, okay? But we're treating that as one and the same. So in the afternoon instruction via Zoom or Google Meet is for our remote learners, period. But that still begs the question, what is my remote child doing in the morning? Simple. Let's take a look. So on a day that a remote learner is on day A, remote learners will work on the day A's independent asynchronous work assigned in Google Classroom at home. like I said, what is going to be true every cycle is teachers are going to post independent asynchronous work on Google Classroom for students to do that complements the synchronous instruction. So that they go hand in hand. You have your asynchronous instruction and you have your synchronous instruction. And once every 3 days, when you see your teacher, you will have those two components that comprise of the lesson content. So on the morning for remote learners is when they're doing their independent work. In the afternoon, starting at 11:38, that is when the remote learner will log on to Zoom or Google Meet for live synchronous instruction with their day A teachers. So for argument's sake, let's pretend that this sample student was a fully remote student. So their Gods and Monsters, AP Macro, and Physical Education class would just simply be meeting, in the afternoon. Period 1, period 2, period 3. I don't want to say it's as simple as that, but it's basically as simple as that. And on each day of their program, so if I'm looking in Pupil Path and I'm looking, and let me go to another week here. There we go. So let's say I'm looking at Tuesday, which would be day B, 4, 5, and 6. These 3 classes would be meeting in the afternoon for a remote learner. If that was a in-person student, they would be meeting in the morning. Okay, so that is basically how this system works in terms of, when is a student meeting with their teachers. And what you have to take into account here is the way this is set up is so a student will, for an in-person learner, a student will see their teacher in person, each of their teachers in person, every 6 days. Because if I'm in person for day A, day B, day C, I've seen all of my teachers. Then the next 3 days, I'm home. I'll still see all of my teachers, but when I'm home, I'm going to see them in the afternoon. I'm seeing them in the afternoon if I'm at home. So that's the only difference. When you're in school in person, you see your teachers in the morning. When you're at home, you see them in the afternoon. Okay. Now, just what I tried to do at the top here is there's a little narrative here that kind of explains the same thing about when you're in person, you have live instruction in the morning, and then in the afternoon, you're engaging in the independent learning versus a remote learner who's doing the independent work in the morning and engaging live in the afternoon. So I tried to give you some visuals here to help, really kind of help understand exactly what it is that we're going to be doing. Some of you are going to notice in your programs, let's see if I can find an example of it here. Yes, right here. Okay. So some of you are going to notice in your programs where, why do I have chemistry twice? I don't want chemistry twice. I used to teach chemistry, so I can make that joke. But there'd be nothing better than having chemistry twice in a day. But in this case, what this means, and the teacher, in this case, Ms. Labora, will share this information with the student. One of these periods is part of a chemistry lab. Once again, one of the incredible things we were able to do this year is still create a program that maintained the 1,200 mandated minutes of science lab that a student needs, which can be done remotely or in person, which qualifies them to take, if there is a science regents this year, it's one of the requirements that they need for graduation and for taking that regents. So I just wanted to point that out, that there are some nuances to some of the programming and why does it look like there's 2 periods there. Sometimes a student has something 10th period, and those are special circumstances. Those are some of our band programs or a team physical education class that your teacher will get in touch with you and explain with you how that's going to happen. For example, College Now classes are going to always be programmed 10th period. So if you see something scheduled 10th period, your College Now teacher will be in touch with you to let you know how that's basically going to, how is that going to roll? When are we going to meet? When should you expect to see that? So in a nutshell, that that is basically how this program is going to work. Now, if in the event that we have a scenario where we have to go fully remote, like so, for example, if we were to go fully remote, and why would we go fully remote? The reason why we might go fully remote is because we have early voting coming to Staten Island Tech. Once again, unfortunately, they're going to occupy the cafeteria, which is our entry point into the building. That is the safest entry point into the building. So for that week, we may have to go fully remote, which means all students would be home. So we have a special schedule, which I don't have on the website right now because I didn't want to confuse anybody. But in the event we would have to go fully remote, we would spread out the classes over the course of the full workday, the full school day. So it'll be a little bit different than what you're seeing here, but we basically will be sending out a schedule to let same thing, day A, day B, day C. It'd be similar to what we did in the spring. But there would be the in-person learning. The synchronous learning would still take place on a regular basis. So that's something that you should be aware of. So that is, in a nutshell, what this basically looks like in terms of the instructional day. We're really proud of this. We're really excited that we're able to do this. A lot went into it, and I have to bow down and tip my hat to the faculty and the staff for making this possible and making this happen. They're really, really committed towards doing all of this. So now I want to take some time and go to some of the questions that I see in the queue here. So now one of the questions that keeps on coming up, my child is an in-person learner. They normally would have came to school in the morning. What do I do? I don't feel comfortable sending him in, and that's probably a good idea not to send them in. So that's going to be simple. All you're going to have to do, and we will be slowly communicating this with you. If you can't make it into school in the morning as an in-person learner, because you're not feeling well, you're simply going to reach out to the teacher and make sure they know that you're going to instead of attending the in-person period in the morning, you're going to attend in the afternoon. Because it's still the same teacher, all it is a matter of communicating with the teacher. You wouldn't be marked absent for today. You still be marked present, and there'd be continuity in learning. Okay, so that's one of the other really great things about this is it actually allows for things, to kind of fall apart. The things that we can't control, not feeling well today. I got to the bus stop and the bus never came, or something happened. The bus was full. We can't control the MTA. We have ordered the special buses that come at the end of the day. So that would be around the 11:30. We have a series of buses, S57s and S59, that leaves from the building that brings students back to Brooklyn and parts of Staten Island. So we have ordered that. So we should have that hopefully by the time school starts. But what's great about this is as stuff goes wrong that we're not in control over, you have options and choices that allow your child's education to continue despite whatever might come up. So some of you have 10th period classes. Some of you are going to have 0 period classes. I see a question about 0 period classes. 0 period classes, same as a 10th period class. So 0 period class is more than likely a band class. Your teacher is going to reach out to you and let you know when you're going to be meeting. Okay, so 95% of all the classes fit perfectly into our 1 through 9 schedule. And then there are some nuances as to where there's a 0 period class, and all that. The teachers are going to let you know where it's going to fit into the actual period 1 through 9 school day. So don't stress too much about that. The information is forthcoming from our teachers, and the information is forthcoming in the next 3 days. You're going to find out about that if you haven't either today, tomorrow, or Friday. Okay. I want to backtrack here and go through some of these questions. Let me go back to the top. All right, and some of these I've answered already, but I'm going to throw them up. So if a student does not have a period 6, are they allowed to grab lunch after finishing period 5 and leave the building? Yes, like I said before, yes. If your day ends period 5 and you don't have a period 6, the expectation is actually that you are leaving the building, because to be quite honest with you, we do not have any space to hold students in the building. Everything has been turned into a classroom that could be turned into a classroom. A lot of you keep on asking me, how did we pull off not sacrificing our technology classes? You only have one robotics room, and if students are using it for one period, how can other students use it for the rest of the day? Truth is, we duplicated all of our technology rooms. So being our technology teachers teach 2 live classes per day, and that's it. We just duplicated those rooms. So 2 different sets of students had access to that class, and we were able to offer it to everybody. So yes, after a student concludes their classes, their expectation is that they will be leaving the building. Yes. Other questions. And like I said before, I think I answered this question already. If a child is absent due to a non-COVID illness, can they attend a remote class in the afternoon on their on days? Yes. Once again, we don't want students traveling to school and going to school that aren't ill, that are ill and not feeling well. And that is a staple of Staten Island Tech students. They are very resilient. We got rid of our perfect attendance acknowledgement to discourage students from making unhealthy choices. Having students that were willing to come to school ill to maintain perfect attendance, or even worse, having students miss a wake or a funeral or an important family event just to maintain perfect attendance, I don't think it's worth it. So we just stopped acknowledging that and not encouraging it. So absolutely, you'll be able to attend remote learning on days where your child is not feeling well. Okay, I'm looking down the line here. Great question. What is the entry process if a student starts period 2? Same thing. Your child is going to continue to enter through the cafeteria. There'll be less students entering period 2. So same process, enter the cafeteria right before your period 2 class begins. There'll be random temperature scanning. There'll be a breakfast to grab and go, and just go right to class. Good question. How will students be graded? Well, I can tell you this. In-person learning is intended for students to engage with their teachers. So what I could promise you is students are not going to be bombarded every time they come for in-person learning with tests and quizzes and things of that nature. No, the in-person learning is intended to really give students a chance to socialize, engage with their teachers and one another. So that means, you're going to see a lot of different types of things like portfolios, different types of projects, longer term types, online types of programs that track students for mastery. We engaged in a mastery-based instruction many, many years ago. And this year, we're really going to be building that out. So you're not going to see your traditional assessment practices that you might have seen in the past. Because honestly, like, how do you do a multiple choice test when in reality is at best it's open book, right? We understand what we're dealing with here in terms of this scenario, like every other school is. But you're going to see a lot of alternative types of assessments that are going to give students the opportunity, multiple opportunities, to demonstrate their mastery of work. So just be patient with us, because we're doing this on a full school, wide school basis, and we're going to be growing with the process as our students are as well. Okay, scrolling down to, let's see what else we have here. Okay. Getting questions about cleaning supplies. Does the school staff and teachers have enough cleaning supplies? Should parents drop off supplies or a check? That is very sweet. Right now, we do. We do have enough cleaning supplies. The Department of Education has promised to continue to supply us with the PPE. We have more than enough of it. In terms of other types of things, where I'm going to ask parents for help, and I'm going to be very dead honest with you here. The budget is not great. We were able to hire everybody back who has been in the building. We've been able to hire new staff in the building as well. So we didn't lose any teachers, faculty, or staff due to the budget cuts. But the budget is extremely slim. We have been told already by the Department of Education that in the past, 3 o'clock till 10 o'clock at night, the Department of Education paid for the permits to keep our school open. That does not exist. There is, if we're going to keep our building open past 3 p.m., it's going to cost us a lot, and it's going to cost us a lot of money in permits and school security. So the Department of Education has outright told us there is no support for that. If you open the building beyond those hours, it's on you. And I'm telling you flat out, as I'm going to present to the school leadership team later this month, there is no money. There is no extra money. So extracurricular activities, Mr. Terusa, myself, Ms. Sanguinito are working on how we can replicate that, to what degree we can even do that this school year. Like I said, this is not going to be your typical school year. So we're going to have to get creative, and where we will need help, when you say drop off a check, paying for certain types of software, or things are going to evolve. We're going to refigure out how we could do certain things differently than we normally used to do them, and that might take some funding, and that might take some support. And many of you and our PTA have been incredible already in pledging that support. So I want to ask you just to please be patient, and as we are making our wish list of what we really need help with, we will share that. We're going to need help. I promise you that. I want to make sure we exhaust our resources in the correct order before we start asking for that help. Okay, like for example, we hear you. Our seniors want the SAT and our juniors want the PSAT. So in October, we're planning on doing that. There'll be a day for seniors to come in, whether they're at home or in-person learners. There'll be an opportunity for them to take the SAT. And the same will be true for the PSAT. The only thing is the Department of Education is not paying for it this year. So students would have to pay the $16 to $20 that it costs to take the exam. So those are some of the things that, we're working hard to maintain and figure out how to do it safely. And just like to kind of give you some insight, if we're going to do the SAT and the PSAT, the best week for us to do it would be the week that I told you we're going to have a week of early voting in our building. I don't want the kids near the cafeteria, the majority of our kids, when that's happening. But we can bring some of our students in to take the SAT and the PSAT in another part of the building to satisfy those two needs. So we're working on that, and more information is going to come soon regarding that. All right, what else do we have here in terms of questions? Let's see. I'm looking. Okay. You're welcome. There's a lot of thanks here. I want to say you're very welcome. It is our pleasure and honor to serve all of you. Okay. So does that mean there will be no sports programs at all for the entire school year? PSAL sports and after-school activities have been postponed for the time being. The PSAL has not really shared much at all with us. I don't see anything happening until March, honestly. Not March, the spring, which technically is March. They're not really giving us much information in terms of what we can expect. But according to your question, I think you can assume that for the time being, there are going to be no sports at this time. I think this is, will you have the specialized high school SAT? Well, like I just said before, we're working to bring the SAT into the building. The Department of Education is recommending we don't, by giving us the option to. They're saying the Department of Ed is recommending not to because they can't pay for it. So as long as our families are willing to pay for it, and there's other ways that we can work with that, we're making that happen. Question, can juniors take the SAT? Typically that happens in the spring. Right now, I really have to prioritize the seniors taking the SAT, just simply because our seniors have had so many dates canceled for the SAT already. So we have to prioritize that, and at the very least give the juniors the chance to take the PSAT, and then we'll look to the spring for the next shot of the SAT for the juniors. Will Sing go on? Okay, Sing continues to go on in terms of the students preparing, the scripts being approved. Quite honestly, I don't know what format Sing is going to be until we get a little bit more information. I'm not allowed to bring large groups of people into a room together, so that kind of eliminates the audience. Having students perform on a stage, the arts guidelines are pretty specific in terms of being anywhere from 10 to 12 feet away from one another in order to put on a performance. So I'm not saying Sing will not go on. I don't see Sing happening in the fall. I see it happening in the spring, when we have a lot. We're going to need a lot of time and more information to pull this off. School system wants to get school running again before we make any of these larger decisions. So just hang tight on that. You don't have to sell me on how important Sing is. Sing was something I brought to the school in 2003, many years ago. So I understand how important it is to the students and why it's so important and why we need that outlet. So just hang on with me on that one. Any news on the SHSAT? No. I mean, as far as they're concerned, they're saying it's going to be administered. I don't know. I don't know what the status is on that as of right now. I haven't been able to get an answer. We are a site that administers it based upon social distancing guidelines. My guesstimate is if we were going to offer the SHSAT at our school like we normally do, we'd probably have to do triple the number of administrations of the exam to service the same number of students who typically come to us. So I don't know at this time in terms of what the status is of the SHSAT, but it has not been canceled as of yet. Other questions? Will there be random testing? Will there be random COVID testing in school? So the only thing I've been told at this point is at one point starting in October, random COVID testing will be done at random schools for students, faculty, and staff. Beyond that, I have no idea what the process is going to be. Is there going to be some sort of consent form, or they haven't shared much more than that. All I've heard, as it stands right now for faculty and staff, getting tested for COVID is a suggested thing. It's not a mandatory thing. But the random COVID testing, I have been told, will be coming sometime in October. Another great question. Will there be another time to pick up belongings from school? Yes. Once we get kids back in the building and we see what that looks like and we iron that out, seniors will be able to come back, and our current students will be able to go into their lockers and get their stuff. As it stands right now, we are not using the lockers. Students will not be using the lockers this year. There's no way we can do that and make it safe. But at one point, we will allow our current students to access their belongings in their locker in a safe manner, and then leave the premises there. We will not be using lockers this year due to safety and health regulations. But seniors at one point will be allowed back. Students who graduated, or alumni now, will be allowed to come back, get their diploma, get their belongings out of the locker, and we can, bring some closure to that. So that is going to happen eventually. How will college scholarship recommendations work since we can't meet in person with our teachers? Everything's going to be electronic communications. I strongly recommend reaching out via email to your teachers and asking for those letters of recommendations for the colleges and scholarships. And that's there's no other way of doing that than to do it that way. So I would be expeditious on that and stay on top of your communications with the teachers. How do I communicate? How do I email a teacher? That's the next question. Well, just make sure you guys all know, on the website, underneath the About Us is the faculty and staff section. When you go to faculty and staff, you can click on any one of those buttons and email the teacher right from there. Okay, so that's how you can email a teacher at any given time. Okay, let's see. Yeah, the same is true for the third floor gym as well. We're going to be giving access to students to each of those places in the building. What is the protocol for in-person physical education classes? Are they held in the gym or in the classroom? Are masks required? My daughter's in the 9th grade and supposedly not moving classrooms. Okay, so for some of the physical education classes, they will be in the gymnasium. More than likely, like I said, we're potting the students pretty much for most of the day. For physical education, where it's permissible for students to go outside, they will be going outside. Otherwise, they will be in. The gymnasium, and you'll be able to look this up on Pupil Path under their program. It will give a location as to where the class is going to be. In some cases, it may be starting in a classroom, but will end outside or start outside, depending upon the situation. The physical education teacher is going to communicate all of this, and don't hesitate to reach out to your child's phys ed teacher if you have any questions or concern. And yes, masks will be worn at all times while students are in the building. Is the PTA running this year? Their PTA is always running. They've been meeting all summer long. Stay tuned for more information on that. Once again, we're trying to restart the regular meetings at the PTA. I would imagine, of course, it's going to be a Zoom or a Google Meet. Same thing with any of our school-based meetings. You're looking at basically what the format's going to be moving forward, and you'll be hearing all about that once we start the school year next year officially. Band is not playing at all. No, band will be playing. Mr. Rams has a plan for how that's going to happen in person. A little bit more challenging to do that remotely, but I have to say, so just to put it into perspective, Mr. Rams has been the statewide person, the go-to person to basically that teachers and state officials are going to for support and recommendations on how to run the band program in COVID. And I have to say, I mean, on Staten Island and across the city and the state, due to COVID, the amount of arts programs and music programs that have just basically been decimated. It's a sad reality, but I'm proud to say we've kept everything intact, just with the exception that it's going to be partially in person and partially remote. Mr. Rams, I have all the faith and confidence in what he's going to do and still make this special for our students and worth it. So just hang in there. Where can we get the DOE iPad? Okay. All right. So I'm going to post the answer to that question in our FAQ section. Matter of fact, I'll post in the comments the link to that, the link to how you get an iPad from the DOE. So if you are in need of a internet-able iPad from the Department of Education, you can go online and request that iPad. That's still true for the time being. I think I have, let's see, somewhere right here, I have that link. I'm gonna have to find that for you guys and put that on here for you. I will get that to you right after this broadcast. Okay. Going on to the next question. I'm going to close this up in a moment. When will graduates be able to pick up their diplomas? We just got the diplomas. We just need to start getting students back in the building and make sure we have that all those protocols down. and then we will gladly invite our graduates or alumni to come back to pick up their diplomas. They literally just came in this week, so just hang in there, and we're going to make that happen. Will there be internships for ninth graders, students? Everything for the most part this year will be remote. And so, yes, there will be opportunities. More and more are coming as the year unfolds. Our work-based learning coordinator and our career development center will be sharing all that information as it comes out. And as you can expect, a lot of them are going to be remote. So the answer to that question is yes, and just stay tuned. We will be communicating that as we typically do. This is Malenfant, just answered another question. Look for a PTA email soon with meeting dates, willingness to serve forms, and elections will take place in October where all board positions are open. Another question. I believe I addressed this, but I have been in and out of the room. If a child is blended but stays at home for a particular day, he would have been in person. Will he easily have a link for the class for that day? Yes. The links are going to be the same, whether you're in person or remote. And as long as you let the teacher know that you're not going to be in person in the morning, it'll be easy to get access for the class in the afternoon. Okay. Okay. Is this being recorded? Yes, this whole entire presentation is being recorded, and I'm going to be emailing it to all of our students and parents tomorrow. Okay. When will I know the exact date for the SAT for the seniors? The tentative date is October 27th, but I posted that. It's on the website in the latest communications. But once that is firm and concrete, you're going to be given a date and a way to pay for it. Okay, so you won't miss that. Any opportunity for the PSAT for 10th graders? Not currently yet. Normally, we offer the PSAT to the 11th, 10th, and 9th graders. Right now, it is only looking like we'll be able to do the 11th graders based upon, just to be quite frank, in order to bring students into the building and socially distance them for a testing situation, it's very difficult and complicated. And right now, I have to prioritize our 12th graders and our 11th graders. I hope, and we will see, that we will get to some other greater sense of normalcy by being able to offer that to 10th and 9th graders. Right now, I can't promise that or even offer that. The College Now classes are typically offered to the 10th graders and beyond. Okay, so starting in the 10th grade, students typically have access to the College Now classes. So just hang tight. Don't rush through high school. You'll get your opportunity to take all those other courses that I know you're looking forward to. Metro cards and ID cards. Ninth graders don't have ID cards yet. So on the first day you come to school, at the conclusion of the day, when you're leaving the building, your students will be leaving the building in the same place that they entered. They'll be leaving the building from the cafeteria. And in the cafeteria, we're going to have stations set up alphabetically for the Metro card. So your child, if your child is in group 1 on Monday, they will pick up their Metro card on their way out. If your child is a group 2 student on Thursday, which is their first in-person day, they will pick the Metro card up on their way out. Same for the 9th graders with their ID card. When they're leaving the building on that day, they will pick up their ID card as they're leaving. And how about the math team? The math team is still taking place. It's just taking place after school. Okay, so the math team still exists. It's just going to be taking place after school. How long will it take for the SAT scores to come out? Since my child needs this, I'll be honest with you, I do not have that answer for you right now. If the student is taking it on October 27th, I do not have that answer for you. However, if you attended or if you watched the video presentation from last night, we had the Senior Information Night Part 2 last night. More and more schools are caring less about an ACT score and an SAT score. I don't know if that's true in this case for the schools that your child is interested in, but if you're concerned about this, contact Miss Leon Forte, and she'll be able. I would hope to put your put your concerns at rest and better answer the question than I can for you right now. What does my child do and where does she go if she has a free period too? So no students have a gap in the middle of the day. Students only have free periods in the beginning or the end of the day. So you don't have to worry about where will they go if they have a period off in the middle of the day. It just simply, they don't have a period off in the middle of the day. What if a student has misplaced their ID card from last year? So when they come into the building, we're gonna type in their last name. We're gonna see their picture pop up, and we'll know it's them. And we'll have a process during the day for a student to retrieve a lost ID card. So on the day that we're handing out ID cards during a dismissal, that will be when a student should stop by and request a new ID card. Thank you for bringing that up. So we'll make sure that we have that taken care of. The cohort is confusing. What days they go is confusing. So once again, I mean, what I can do really quickly, because time here, if you're confused about the cohorts, your child's last name, determines what group you're in. You're either in group 1 if your last name is A through L, group 2 if you're M through Z. And if you follow this calendar here, this calendar here, anywhere group 1 students is A through L, those are the days that the students come in person. Anywhere where you see group 2, those are the days your child comes in person. You're following the group number. The cohort you're in is the group number 1 or 2 based upon your last name. Okay, I hope that helps. If not, just simply contact Ms. Malenfant tomorrow morning, and she'll be happy to go through that with you. When is the math team meeting being announced? Okay, I don't have the answer to that question right now, but Dr. Davis will be sharing that information soon. I do know that. For incoming 9th grade blended learner, will someone take them to their first class? Will a school map be provided? Okay, for security reasons, I can't publish a school map the way I normally would like to. We will have guides in the building on the first day directing students to their classes. Don't worry, there's only one class that our 9th graders are going to be going to that day. So they're not going to have to worry about traveling all throughout the building. All right. And my child does have a free period too, though. Okay. So I'm going to have to take a look at that. I see your last name. I'm going to have to take a look at that. That should be the case, but let me confirm that. What if my child has a free first period? Yes, your child comes to school second period. So they leave a little bit later in the morning, or they'll have to wait outside a little bit longer before they start their day. So yes, that is true. How will the Honor Society volunteers hours work? Mr. Delagrazzi and Ms. Lang will be reaching out with more information this year on how to do volunteerism. I promise you, there's going to have to be a lot of virtual opportunities and flexible opportunities for what volunteerism looks like in COVID times. We realize that everyone's on the same playing field here, no matter what school you're in. The opportunities are limited, and the amount that you can actually do in person is limited. So we realize that. All right, folks, I need to bring this to a close. You've all been great. Your questions are awesome. I want to thank you for taking the time to join me tonight. I'm going to keep on doing this pretty often in the first months of school and throughout the year. So I hope you like this format. I'm alone right now, so it's a little bit hard to go back and forth in terms of checking the comments, running this feed, and all the fancy graphics and stuff. But we're going to keep on doing this. This is more than likely how you're going to see PTA meetings and special events that are going to be taking place over the course of the year. So I hope you like this format and were able to tune in. And the great part about it, if you weren't able to tune in, I will be, this is recorded. I will be posting it to YouTube and sharing with all of our families the next day. So listen, thank you for joining me tonight and spending some time tonight as we launch this. It'll be the year to remember. Don't ever feel lost or hesitate to reach out. I always say, and most of you who reach out to me know this, I often get back to you if you reach out to me within 24 seconds, 24 minutes, and definitely within 24 hours, or somebody on my team will, if you have a concern, question, or you need help. All right, we're here for you. Looking forward to the next school year and how unique I know it's going to be. And I wish you nothing but the best health and safety. Thank you for joining me tonight, folks, and I'll see you again soon. Good night.